So a lot of my friends are turners, and they're turning pens and giving them away for Christmas presents, which is really cool. Making Christmas presents to give away is awesome, and I'm trying to challenge myself to do a lot of that this year. Now I'm giving away a couple of pens, but I'm not making them. They're tactical pens I bought off of Amazon, but I do want to add my own personal touch to it. So I'm making pen boxes for them. Now I know you're thinking, Izzy's building a pen box. Well, these ones are pretty cool. Check it out. It opens up about, I call it the surprise box. It opens up about halfway, and then bonk, the pen pops out. Now you can open it from the front. Whoop. Now you can open it from the front like a civilized person, or if it's sitting on your desk and you just want access to your pen, you push down on the back, and the pen pops open, or the box pops open, and then you get the pen. Let's build one. Because this box has several small pieces that need to kind of work together, it was easiest just to make a template. Now most of the parts are 3/8 of an inch with the exception of one, and the one I'm working on right now is 1/4 of an inch thick. So I ripped some material down to 3/8 and one piece down to 1/4 inch, and then I just used the template to pull measurements off of and cut the pieces to size. Working with small pieces of material is always a little precarious, so if you have a bevel to cut the bevel with the longer piece of wood and then come back and cut the 90-degree angle afterwards. That'll keep you the safest you can be working with small pieces. Now I had this little tiny piece that needs to go on the lid, and that's a little nub that comes down and hits the plate that raises the pen. So I didn't want to try and mill that to size and then glue it. So I cut a piece a little bit larger than what I needed out of some scrap, and then I glued that to the lid or in the position where it needed to be. Now once I had that glued in place and it was dried, I shaped it on the sander, and that was the safest way to get that piece made. Now as long as I'm gluing up stuff, I'm going to glue up everything I need to. Now there's a miter on the front of the box that needs to be glued up as well, so I had my stuff out, I glued it up. Now whenever I'm gluing up a miter like this, especially on small boxes, tape is the best way to get a really excellent miter. With all the inside parts cut to length, there's a couple of them that need to have a little bit of a round over edge. Now you can do that in lots of ways. You could use a sander, even a sharp knife. In this case I chose to use a block plane. Now that I had all the inside parts milled to the size and everything rounded over, I needed to mark the hole positions. Now I did that with a pair of calipers. You could do that with a ruler, or you could just use the template by laying it over the material and using a awl to punch a hole where the drill goes. Now because these parts are so small, the barrels for these need to be small as well, and I'm using 1/16 inch piano wire. A brad nail that has a 16th inch diameter would work as well, or something close to that. It doesn't have to be a 16th, but just something small. With all the positions marked out, I drilled them out at the drill press using a block to stabilize it and keep the pieces in a 90-degree angle. To finish up the inside parts, I needed to put a little cutaway so your thumb could get up underneath the front of the lid to lift it up. And to do that, I'm just using my homemade spindle sanders. And I need to also route a groove in the plate that holds the pen. So to do that, I used my homemade router plate. And then I taped the piece down to a larger block so I can put it in my vise. And I'm using some double-sided tape, and then I'm just taping it down so the edge is kind of even with the block. And with my fence set up on my router plate, I was able to just use my plunge router and route out that little groove. So the router bit I was using was really dull, so it left some burn marks. So I used the crazy looking shaped scraper to scrape out as much as I could, and then I rounded over the edge of a utility knife on my sander and got the rest of those burn marks. Now anybody who's ever sanded flutes and when their ends are burnt knows it'll take you a month of Sundays to sand those out, especially in hard maple. So that's just a quick way of getting that done. So for the sides, I'm using 2 pieces of 5/16 figured walnut that I cut down on the table saw. And then I just double-sided taped them together and then glued my template down to those. And I'm using the template in this case to drill out all the hole positions. Now because I'm only using a 1/16 bit, I'm just drilling all the way straight through both pieces. And when I get done at the end, I can just fill those little 16th holes and sand them, and you will never even see it. So before I started gluing all this stuff together, I just put all the parts in, used all the holes that I drilled, put all the hinge pieces in just to make sure everything was working the way it was supposed to. And thankfully it was. Now before I glue this whole thing together permanently, I wanted to finish all the inside parts. And once that was done, I double checked to make sure it was working, and then I used some fast setting CA gel to glue this all together. Now this is fine for a small project like this. I wouldn't use it on a big one. So these little C-clamps are something I've been using a lot lately, and for under $5 they're really handy. The little red button, you push it and it's like a fast action, and then you can just tighten it down. I found these on Amazon. They're made by Betsy, and they've been coming in really handy. So after everything was put together, sanded the outside of it, and then of course sprayed it again with an acrylic, and Bob's your uncle. It's done, and it's working great. So that's a really cool way to gift a pen, and a couple modifications I need to make to it. I want it to be big enough to hold a pen the size of the Sharpie, because I know a lot of turners are making pens that are a little bit bigger around. So I'm going to modify the template just a little bit, a touch longer, so it'll hold up to like a 6.5 inch pen, and one as big around, or maybe a touch bigger around than a Sharpie. So that'll kind of be the limitations for the template. And I've made it available on my website, so if you'd like to check that out, or you want to build one for yourself, links in the description box below. Don't forget, I'm on Instagram. If you want to see what's going on in the shop as it's happening in the shop, check me out on Instagram. I post pictures and videos over there all the time. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.